The first time I was baptized, I felt like it was something that you were supposed to do, and basically being in church since I was conceived, I just felt like it was wise enough for me to go down front. So whenever I was 12, I decided to go down front, basically not knowing what in the world I was doing or not fully understanding what I was doing. Well, what did he not do? Basically, up until my sophomore year of high school, my life was like super great. I didn't really have anything to worry about or any worries in general. But the summer of my sophomore year, which was, the summer of 2015, I got the absolute worst news I could have ever possibly imagined. I found out that my grandmother had passed away. And this really broke me inside. I was shattered terribly. She was like my absolute best friend. And that's when I truly started to understand what it meant to lose someone. Then started my junior year of high school. This was a very crazy year for me. Over the summer, after my grandmother had passed away, I'd met this guy at Super Summer, and oh my goodness, he was, I'm telling you, like the love of my life at the time, so I thought. But like all guys do, they will break your heart. So a couple months down the road, he broke me in half. With this heartbreak, since I gave so much of myself to him, I got really low with myself. I started having really bad self-esteem issues. My self-worth kind of went down really bad. And I've always felt like I've always needed a guy or always needed some type of boyfriend around. At this point, I basically felt like my identity was mainly found in guys and not in the one who it needed to be, which was Christ. I started wondering more, what was wrong with me, or why wasn't I good enough, or what did he see in other girls that he didn't see in me. And so basically I just started asking God, what in the world are you doing? What more do you want from me? Since you've taken my grandmother and you've basically broke my heart in two, what are you doing? Like, what in the world? I basically, inch by inch, I started distancing myself more away from God, and I got into a really low place in my life. And I basically just thought, is life going to get any worse, or is it always going to be like this? Closer to the end of my junior year, I started having really bad, really difficult relationship issues. Guys have always been a weakness for me, and Satan knows that all too well. So from this first heartbreak that I had, it really left a big void in my heart, and so I felt like that I was trying to fill it with other guys with their temporary satisfaction, and I always felt like, I'm not getting enough of it, or it just left me wanting more, and it left me completely empty. And so I would either just, I'd have to go to another guy and find it through them, or it was just an ongoing process. But nevertheless, at the end of my junior year, I got another set of terrible news. My parents had gotten a divorce, and this really broke me really bad. I didn't necessarily show it because I kind of knew it was coming within our family and at home and stuff. So really at this point, I was like, all right, God, I know you're up there and all, but I'm just really not going to listen to what you have to say. Basically, you've done more harm in my life at this point than, good. So I really don't see anything getting any better. So I'm just not really going to listen to you much anymore. But the crazy thing is, I still showed up to church like nothing was wrong. And I would still listen to the sermons and sit there in the pew and be like, you know, I wonder if things would always be like this, or, you know, are they ever going to get any better? My senior year, this was the start of my senior year. At this point, my life, or my senior year, wasn't necessarily that bad, but my problem with guys got progressively worse. My parents' divorce was final at this point, and I was just an all-around emotional wreck. I was super, super broken at this point, but I didn't necessarily show it. So, you know, people would ask me, "How are you?" And, you know, I'm good, you know, but I wasn't always good, and the smile on my face wasn't always real. Kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm so broken that God's not going to want anything to do with me. So, you know, why should I change my ways if He thinks He thinks that I'm too far gone from where I am and where I am in my sin. Freshman year of college, which was actually last year, my priorities were way out of whack. Basically, I would just show up to class, not really taking it serious. I would just show up and just make sure I'm doing what I need to do to pass. But at this point, I was still playing church, still going through the motions, and, you know, ultimately fooling myself. I wasn't fooling God, because I knew He knew exactly what I was doing. So basically, I was just fooling myself and my emotions and what I was doing. And I was basically just coming to church because, you know, that's what you're supposed to do, and just going through the motions. And it was more of doing this in a habit kind of way. When Satan knows your weaknesses, he will try to, every way possible, get into every situation, inch by inch, creep into your life, and before you know it, he will take over. And before you know it, you are basically drowning in deep, deep sin. Satan will come in and basically dressed up in all that you've ever imagined, you know, the best thing that you could even think of. He'll come dressed as those, and he knows your trigger points. He knows what gets you going, and he just knows basically your insecurities. And when he knows those, and when he knows that you're going to fall for those, he'll start to consume you. Satan started slowly making his way into my life, and basically sending guys my way that weren't always the best for me. You know, I would be hanging out with him and stuff, and you'll hear like these voices say, you know, just one time won't hurt, or, oh, it'll be so fun, you know, just don't worry about it. And, you know, I know way better than what God thinks, and, you know, I have the best interest for you, so you need to listen to my voice instead of his. And in this particular area of my life, I struggled terribly. Always kind of felt like that guys only wanted me for sex, and that was really the only thing that I was good for. But there comes a time when you really examine yourself and you really truly think to yourself, you know, what am I doing? You know, I've come this far, and something's got to give, something's got to change. And so basically on September the 18th, I thought was just going to be like a normal meeting with Aaron, turned into something that I would have never pictured my mind to be. Basically, this was just going to be another meeting where he was just going to tell me that my ways are just terrible, and where I'm going, the path that I was going just was going to lead me, you know, into a path of destruction and devastation. And so I really didn't want to hear all of that, because I had heard it a million times before. He basically just told me the truth in such a loving way that the path that I was going down was really just disappointing to not only my future self, but to God. Finally, at this point, we had come to the realization or I had never truly accepted Christ as my Savior. And so, you know, when I was baptized before, I kind of just did it through the motions because this is what you're supposed to do. And, you know, at 12, I kind of thought that was an older age to, you know, get baptized. And because I was like, well, I think I'm supposed to be like 7 or 8 going through this and going down front and not 12. And so being 19, this was a really eye-opener for me because I thought I had always been saved, but when I looked at my heart of hearts and I was truly honest with myself, I'd never truly given my life to Him because, you know, I would only want to give Him like 30% of my life, and I wanted to keep the 70%. I didn't want to give Him all of me because I thought I knew what was best for me. I thought I had the best interest in my life, when in reality, when my ways just are terrible and that they're not good at all. As we were talking things through, he said, "Taylor, I need you to pray about it tonight and text or call me tomorrow." And I was like, "Oh, okay." Well, a few seconds and minutes go by and I'm like, "Aaron, I basically feel like there's a big, huge rock on my chest and on my heart that I can't wait until tomorrow or to tell you." So I truly felt right then and there that I was truly saved, and I really felt God take the heaviness off of my heart and say, you know, "Welcome home, Taylor. You're mine." And at that point, I just truly felt like I was truly saved. The reason why I'm getting baptized again is because I finally came to the realization that I needed Christ in my life truly this time, and that I needed His forgiveness for my sins, and that I really needed Him super badly because what I was doing and the path that I was going down, my ways were in no way, shape, form, or fashion pleasing to Him, and, you know, it was just all around awful. The crazy thing through all of this, you know, God never gave up on me. He never stopped loving me. He was always there regardless, and He always pursued me. And so, you know, no matter how broken I thought I was or how deep I was in sin that I'd gotten, you know, God was always there. He always, when I didn't see it, He was always there, and He always had the best interests at heart, but I was too stubborn to actually understand who He was and the realization that I needed Him badly. Also, finally come to the realization that, you know, I was never too broken for Him, and I was not too far gone from Him and His grace and His mercy. There's this song that recently came out, and the verse in it says, "When I was your foe, still your love fought for me." And this particular verse speaks so many volumes in my life, because when I felt like I was too broken or too down for Him, you know, He was always there. He was always fighting for me, but I didn't ever take the time to actually realize that when I was just going off on my own way and doing what I thought was right and just basically living for myself, and realizing that, you know, God was always there, and His love was always there. I just never really took a hold upon it, and just never really took into consideration that, you know, He's always been there regardless from the very beginning. Basically, through any obstacle that I've went through, faced, whatever, there's 3 particular statements that go through my mind every day. And, you know, first and foremost, God is and will always be God, regardless in any situation. God is and will always be good. You know, when we think what we're going through or any hardships that we're going through, we may think that they're the worst thing on earth, but or the worst thing that we could possibly imagine going through. but you know, He always has the best interest at heart for us, and He's going to do whatever He can do to get the glory for Him. And so He was and is and will always be good. And most importantly, He is and will always be in control. These particular 3 statements are all around simple, but when you're going through things and you just think, God, why? Or, you know, what else could go wrong, or what else is going to happen? Basically telling yourself those 3 statements, I know it gives me a reassuring peace that He is and will always be in control. He is and will always be good, and He is and will always be God. And it just helps me realize that He sees the bigger picture, and He knows, you know, He knows what's going to happen. And so it just helps me have a peace into my heart, into my life. You've got to trust in God's plan, and you've got to know that His will be done regardless of what happens to us and regardless of what we go through. And you've got to have a hope. What I hope others understand from what I'm doing is that, you know, regardless of your story and regardless of what you're going through, God's not going to leave you where you are. You're not too broken for Him, and most definitely He's not going to leave you in the mess that you're in. If anyone in this room feels a tug at your heart, or you feel some sort of uneasiness because you know you're not where you need to be with the Lord, or you know you need to get some things right, by all means, do that today. You know, my hope and my challenge for every one of y'all is that you don't leave here not knowing where you stand with the Lord and not knowing if you're truly saved. You could be just like me and think that you're saved, but know deep down that you truly hadn't accepted Him, or you truly hadn't just given your life all to Him. And if you're too nervous about coming down, or, you know, what is so-and-so going to think, I promise He's going to take care of everything else. You've just got to take that first step of faith. Do not be doubtful about it. Just give it all to Him. A life verse that has really stuck with me since my second mission trip in Carlisle is 2 Peter 1:3, and I'll give you the best version that I could truly think of, is the Rodney Hawkins International Version. Basically, God has given us everything for life. We just got to be open to Him and let Him come into our lives and let Him take the steering wheel of our life. I hope that everyone holds me accountable to being a humble Christian and just loving people right where they are, and being an ambassador for Christ. This past week, actually on Wednesday, as I was going through all these questions and everything, I'm a huge Pinterest person, so as soon as I clicked on Pinterest one night, this poem that I'm about to share with you popped up, and I thought, wow, at how this has all come together. The title of it is Jesus Christ, and it starts out by saying, "There's someone who loves me despite my flaws, despite all the terrible mistakes I've made. He hears all the ugly thoughts that inhabit my mind. He sees me in my darkest times, when I'm weak, doubtful, and when I'm ready to turn my back. And this man, he sees how imperfect I am. This perfect man sees all my wrongs, and this is what he tells me. To me, you are beautiful. To me, you are worth it. I know you're not perfect. I know you have mistakes, but I will never turn my back on you. I will love you eternally, I hope you can love me too. A perfect man not only tells me he loves me, he shows me how much every single day. And this man, he loves you too."